Click subscribe to get daily Manchester United content from passionate Reds, only on All for United.
There we go. Hello and welcome back to All for United's tactical preview. They're getting a bit more depressing every week, aren't they?
Aren't they just?
Two back-to-back games against teams that you really should be winning. We've lost one. We're yet to play one. I wish I had more positivity coming into this, but it's very, very hard. So Stu, Cal, hope you guys are well. We should have Abdul joining us in a second as well. We'll get straight into it, Stu. We'll look at the Everton game. I mean, it depresses me going back on it, looking back, but I suppose what went wrong?
Well, tricky one, really, because I was slightly inebriated at the time as we were at the Grand National, we're at the races. So I was watching and, crying when my horses didn't come in at the same time. So I was having a bit of a day. What went wrong? I think the easiest question would be what went right. And the easiest answer to that would be pretty much zero. We're in this phase of our season. The players are in this phase of their season where playing football appears to be a real chore and a real inconvenience for them. There's no fun element to what is a great game of football that at 52, I should have retired years ago and I can't. And I suppose from fans like myself, like Cal, like Abdul, like yourself, it's very, very difficult to understand and digest the current state of play that's going through the club at the moment, and players that clearly have no want and no will to turn up at a weekend, not just for the fans, but for themselves. They appear to have lost that pride within themselves as people and their families. And it's very, very strange as well as disappointing. I would say from what I saw of the game, for the first 20 minutes, I thought we were okay. And that's really about it. Again, I didn't see any pattern of play. I didn't see anyone with any aggression. Again, I didn't see anyone with any ideas. No common sense appeared on the pitch. And it was it was almost as if, let's get 90 minutes out of the way because I just want to get showered, get on the coach and get home. There was nothing that made me believe we would ever going to beat Everton. And I can't quite get my head around that. And it's very, very strange. So the parts that I did see through my beer goggles, or actually cider goggles, because I maybe drink cider all day. I lost a bet and I had to drink cider all day. Not happy about that. Anyway, it's a different story. That's the best way I can describe it. It was just plain. It was blancmange. It was vanilla. It was everything that is just mediocre and boring. That's what that game was.
Yeah, I cannot disagree with you one bit, but I'll come to you, Abdul. It's brilliant to have you back on. Obviously, it's a couple of weeks since we last spoke. We'll look at United in a wider sense. They haven't won in. It's actually over a month now since that 3-2 win against Spurs. What have you made of these performances? Is it a struggle with the tactical setup? Is it a very clear lack of effort? What has gone so wrong? Because it has all really hit the fan, hasn't it?
I think it's more of, again, I know I keep saying the same exact thing every time I come on here. Like, it's all the lack of compatibility issues with the tactical structure issues with, I think they mentally checked out of the season themselves too. It reached a point with them where, like, when they go 1-0 down, it's like, oh my God, here we go again. It hasn't worked out for us, or like it's just not going to work out. And like, I don't think players are dumb or stupid. They know that certain things aren't working out, like certain things aren't adding up together. Like, so it's kind of like, oh, for example, let's take someone like like Harry Maguire, for example. He has to do the progression because we don't have a defensive midfielder. You think Harry Maguire doesn't know that? He knows that, like, because if he doesn't take the ball out from the back and progress with it, no one else will, like we don't have the players to do that. So it's kind of like we have players that have so many responsibilities, and then on top of it, things are not working out, and then on top of it, they get blamed for it, and then on top of it, they're like, it's like a big ball of messy, so many things happening together that is just like it's very hard to decipher, and it would take a very long time to just pick everything out for every player and tell you exactly why this player is not performing. But like I think they've reached a point where they're just mentally they're just not there, especially when they go 1-0 down.
Yeah, it's very hard to see any sort of fight in this team. But Cal, I'll come to you. Obviously, it's full of negatives at the minute. It has been for the past couple of the past couple of weeks at least. Hey,
don't come to me with a positive. Jeez.
No. Well, I'm trying to think, because in games recently we have had chances. Against Leicester there was a couple of big chances. Alanga had a massive chance against Atletico Madrid in that game that we lost. Obviously, there was a few half chances against Everton as well. Is there a sense of, we've been like this for a while now, where we're still creating a decent amount of chances? It's just the players aren't finishing them. It's almost getting to a laughable state of how poor our finishing has been. So can you take any sort of positive in that? That there are still chances being created. Probably last season, these are chances that we were scoring and winning games based on moments, if you will. But, are we seeing the flip side of that? Are we become too reliant on having a clinical finisher up front?
No, because the chances that we create aren't clear-cut chances enough. I think if you look at the expected goals of the team, it's not exactly flying. It's not exactly 4 or 5 goals a game, and we're just failing to put them away. The chances aren't clear-cut enough to warrant a goal. You're more likely to not score it than score it. At this point, I've kind of run out of things to say on Man United at this stage, because I've done this tactical preview quite a few times before, and I've said so many times, they play like they don't care. They play like they just want to get back to the coach. They play like they just want to get back home. I've said it loads of times and people have gone, nah, I don't think it's that. And I don't understand how you can have professional footballers who perform like how they did against Everton on a football field and think that's acceptable. It's become a stage now where, as a Manchester United fan, I wouldn't be sad if any single one of those players left. I really wouldn't, because I don't care if we lose particularly. I don't like losing. I'd obviously prefer to win, but losing's part of football. You win, you lose. It just happens. What I can't forgive is Everton running 10 kilometres more than Man United. A team battling relegation ran 10 kilometres more than a team supposedly trying to fight for a Champions League spot. It's unforgivable. There's nothing positive about Man United right now. There just isn't. The club is in disarray. It's shambolic from top to bottom, and every single one of them players wants to take a look at themselves in a mirror, because every single one of them should be ashamed of themselves right now.
Yeah, very, very hard to disagree. Well, still, I'll come to you with what fans have been saying for a couple of weeks now, in that, we need to get some of these academy lads in. Firstly, I'll ask, do you agree with that? Because there's a lot of backlash to that, saying, why would you bring them in to this mess? But if there were to be a couple of players bedded in now, because it seems like inevitable that you can't carry on with this current group of players, that the heads are gone. It's a lost subject. So if you were to bring a couple of players in, who would they be, and sort of why would you bring them in terms of how they would fit and benefit this team?
Look, I was asked this question last night, and my answer was I wouldn't. I wouldn't subject any academy lads to it. People will have been crying out for the likes of Medjbury to come back in, Shurateri to have another stab, and I think it's Alvaro Fernandez, isn't it, the left back, to have a go. But it's the wrong time to be bringing somebody like Medjbury in. These players are good players. They're not quite ready for the Premier League yet, the hustle and bustle of what the Premier League can offer. And irrespective of where we are, and Carl's right, and so's Abdel, really. Nothing's changed in weeks, in months. Nothing's changed at all. And so nothing will change, even if you bring in young, energetic players. The problem is within football, and I was always taught this from a very, very young player, it's your responsibility. If you lose a game of football, you're part of a team that loses. So it's your responsibility. And our players don't kind of accept that, won't accept it. They're more interested in blaming other players than accepting the responsibility. And so to bring in a player of Medjugorje's quality that doesn't have that real true leader that can look after him on the pitch, that can help guide him on the pitch, that can help coach him on the pitch, so he doesn't fall into the trap of playing, when McTominay's having a bad game, he then comes down to McTominay's level. And that happens in every walk of football, not just Premier League level. It's a very dangerous thing to play. It's a dangerous game to play. But unfortunately, there's too many fans that don't understand that and will clamber for it. So for me, it's not an option. The other thing you've got to consider is that Dean Smith, his team are very high tempo. They're not brilliant players, but they're very, very high tempo. And if you remember when we beat them, I think it was 1-0, wasn't it, at their place? It was a tight game. And when Villa beat us 1-0 at Old Trafford when Smith was there, it was very, very difficult for us to, and it wasn't even a low block. It's just the way that they set up, another way, the way they hustled and harried our players. And so, So look, I can understand about what Jim was saying about Alanga. Alanga's got a bit more presence about him. He's a bit more of a stronger physical presence, but he's absolutely right in where he is now. He hasn't really kicked on because he hasn't got the players in around him to do that. So it's not something I would do. I'll be interested to see what the lads think. But I would, there's sometimes where you got to look at a group of players and say, it's up to you. You've got us in this hole. You've got to drag us out of this hole. Nobody else is going to come and bail you out. You've got to do it. And just to see what happens. So,
yeah, fair enough. Well, Cal, I saw you shaking your head when I initially asked the question. So I'll come to you. Is it a case of it would probably do more harm than good to these players to bring them in right now? You're muted.
I think everything Stu said was kind of spot on, really. The problem is they haven't got anybody who could help them on the pitch right now. And ultimately, when you've got captains who try and blame the forwards and forwards who try and blame the defenders, young players are more susceptible to making mistakes. And I wouldn't want the likes of Ebri and Fernandez and Alanga, even so to speak, even though he's in the team at the moment. But I wouldn't want these players to be so harmed with the development because they've done a mistake and they've not had anyone around them to sort of go, don't worry about it, kick on, we'll carry on. Because at this stage, the season's kind of over because you can see it on the players' faces. The players just want the 38th game to be played, they're finished, they're done. And as fans, when you're paying thousands of pounds, hundreds of pounds to go and watch your team whilst these people are on however much they're on, it's quite sad, really. And personally, I'm half split because as much as I'd love to see the academy players play because these first teamers don't deserve to be wearing the shirt anymore, I wouldn't want to put these young lads, these young, very talented lads who, Stu's right, probably aren't quite physically ready for the Premier League yet, but I wouldn't want to put them into such a toxic environment in the first team because I can't see how it would do them any good. But on the flip side, it can't be any worse than the current lot playing for the club. So I'm a little bit split. I think I'm more on the side that I wouldn't play them. I think I'd rather keep them away from such a horrible, toxic environment within the first team. In terms of when it comes to Norwich, the bottom of the league, so it probably would be a good time to bring them in because they are the worst team in the league. Ultimately, I think that's just through quality. I think Dean Smith has got them working really hard. I think they have got patterns of play that work well for them. But ultimately, they are a championship team in a Premier League, and it is rightly so that they go down. But they'll make United work hard because that's how they play. And, you know, there's no given results in the Premier League. And if United don't work hard and put the effort in, then Norwich could definitely come away with something at Old Trafford. And stupidly, I've bought a ticket to go on Saturday. So I'll be looking forward to my voice going at about 2 o'clock on... Oh, no, it's 3 o'clock kickoff. At about 5 o'clock on Saturday night, it'll be gone because I'll be screaming at all the players to just run to the ball would be nice. But, yeah, I think it'd be quite harmful for younger players to be going into that side right now. Like you say, Elanga's not really developed as much as he could have done because he's not had the help around him.
Yeah,
Go
completely. Yeah, go ahead. Abdul, I'll come to you. Obviously, it's almost impossible talking tactics with this team when the heads have gone. So you'll have to bear with me if I'm scraping the barrel here. But, you know, we're talking about youngsters that could come in. Are there any players that we have in our, you know, on the bench or that don't make the matchday squads that sort of you'd want to be given sort of a last chance to save their United career? Because, you know, we've even seen Mata come on in the last game, so it's definitely not out of the picture to bring these players back in. So if you were to bring someone in, sort of who and why, I suppose.
Honestly, it's a very difficult question because when you ask that question, okay, so we bring someone in, but we bring someone in to do what? Like, what is the job that they're going to be fulfilling if you bring them in? And that's the problem. You don't even know what, like, so like we right now we say, okay, us as fans, we say, oh, put on Mata for a little bit of creativity, but that's not how coaches think. You know, they just don't put on Mata for creativity. Basically, for example, you would want to put on Mata because of how he controls the ball in tight areas. You want players in certain small pockets between the lines. Now, that's how they think about it. It isn't just that, oh, put Mata for creativity, he'll whip something out of nothing. It isn't like that. But again, like, what is the job that he's fulfilling? Like, for example, let's say, oh, we have our forward line they're making these certain type of runs, and we know that Mata can make these certain type of passes that will find these runs. Do we have the players that are making the specific runs to get on the end of the passes that Mata delivers? I don't think we have that. You know, that's and that is the issue. So putting on someone like Juan Mata just like that doesn't solve an issue. It depends on what Mata is giving, who's receiving, basically. You know what I mean? So who's receiving what Mata is giving? Even though he is, older, not fast and all that stuff, he is a very useful player to have. And if in the right system, he could be, like, he could have a major role in the team. But what is our system? You know, what is the way that we're trying to play? Like, the thing is with Ranić at the moment, he abandoned what he wanted to do earlier on in the first, like, 6-7 matches, let's just say. Like, after the Middlesbrough game, you know, or I think one game after that, I'm not sure which, but then like slowly after that, things started to go a little bit like we gave up on the season kind of thing. You know, like even when we came on here, we said like, maybe we're not getting the results, but we're creating a lot of chances, which is good. It will reflect into the performances, you know, later on. But now we're neither getting the results nor are we creating the clear-cut chances that we used to create before. You know, so the aggression, the compactness in pressing, all that just suddenly disappeared. And it's because of the profile of players that he has. He can't keep playing that style with the players that he has. And he realized it. Now, the issue that I have with it is that, okay, you abandoned your principles and your style. What are you putting in place of it? So far, the only thing that I can see is that he's just trying to make us solid defensively, and that's it. And the players are just deciding what they want to do in the offensive phase. And that's the sad reality of it, right? Really, like, so the only useful player is Mata, but like, you have to have the right profiles playing at the same time, like Sancho, like maybe Rashford as well.
It's interesting you say that, Abdel, because I was asked that question last night. What would I do?
Yeah.
And I said bring in Mata, and I said
Yeah.
something a tiny bit radical. I said pop Bruno into an 8 let Mata have the 10 role, and it'd have to be Matic. But my problem was exactly what you just said, is what happens in front of Mata is going to be crucial. And for that, I think you've got to remove Ronaldo out from the 9 and play Sancho. I suggested either Alanga or, and you know what I think about Rashford through the middle. You know I don't think he works, but I said Rashford in the middle and potentially bring Jesse in on the right, only because I think Jesse would give Mata that outlet that he's looking for. Sancho would give Mata that outlet, but it's what you do in the middle, isn't it? That was what I was thinking last night when I was asked.
Yeah, like if we still had Martial, we could make cook something up with, for example, like you said, Lingard, Mata, Sancho, and Martial, all those fours, because they control the ball in tight areas. They know they move, they give and go and move and make space. So they'll understand each other, that quartet, But when you have someone who just wants to be played in behind all the time, like Rashford, for example, I'm not saying it makes it dysfunctional, but it just does not add up to the quartet of players that you have. Now you can have Rashford as one player, as a one-off, no problem. But if you have Rashford and Ronaldo, and then you put on Mata, then Mata's qualities really doesn't add anything to these two.
That's what I was saying.
You just want someone who's pinging balls from deep, like a Pogba or a Scholes type of player, And then also you need United to be playing deeper. You don't need them to be playing higher, right? So it depends on what you want to do. Like we can say, just put on this guy, but put on this guy does what?
You've got to have a vision for it. No?
Yeah,
what would you
exactly.
Think, about Mata?
Exactly. He has to have the player that can actually, benefit from what he brings to the game. Because if he doesn't, he'll look bad, and the player that he's playing with will look bad, and both of them will seem like they're not doing anything.
Yeah, that's right. Don't forget though, Abdel, Ronaldo's got a shin injury, hasn't he? Bless him.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is we don't have to see his shin pad that has his face on it.
Oh, Dan, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that. Sorry, James.
Yeah. It's a good discussion.
I was just wondering what Cal thought about Mata.
I mean, we can try so many different players at this point, but I think if anything's come to fruition, it's that there kind of isn't a plan at the moment. And you're spot on. You can't just keep putting players in hoping something's going to happen if you haven't got some kind of idea of what you want them to do. The idea of Bruno being the number 8 with probably Matic as the deeper player and putting Matic in the 10, that'd be great, wouldn't it? Mata in the 10. It probably would work with a very versatile front three. 3 players that would be constantly on the move, looking for the ball.
Yeah.
Whereas if we've seen anything over the past few games, Ronaldo's very static and he just doesn't want to move at this point. And it would do nothing for Juan Mata. Effectively, all it would be Juan Mata to the side and just getting lambasted because it looks like all he's doing is giving the ball away. When in reality, he's trying things, but his forward players aren't helping him at all. I mean, at this point, I think we're aware as well, a lot of midfielders are leaving. A lot of players, but a lot of midfielders are leaving the club in the summer. You've got Pogba's going, Matic is going, Mata's going, Lingard's going, Cavani's going, possibly more that I forgot to mention. So there is a possible, there's probably close to £1 million in wages a week.
And they're coming to summers, so 2022 and 2023, we have a total of 14 players out of contracts.
That's what I mean.
That's forgetting the players that want to leave. There's 14 players out of contract, so whether they want or don't want, they're leaving. Or their contracts are up.
Ultimately, the number one thing that has to happen now is because of that reason and so many players leaving. 14 players leaving is a huge chunk of a playing squad. It's over half of the 25. If that is to happen, then a huge number of incomings, whether that be coming from current loanees out, academy players, and transfers in.
Signing,
It's a huge opportunity for Ten Hag to get players who fit the right profile of how he wants to play.
Yeah.
We can't just go, oh, let's sign Ronaldo because he's available. We absolutely have to sign players who fit to Ten Hag. And that amount of players leaving, or possibly, a few might end up getting extensions and things. I've got the list, but I imagine a couple of those players out of contracts. I think Rashford might be one of them. I imagine he'll probably be given another contract. A good chunk of that is going to leave, and ultimately it allows a lot of incomings to come in that could completely reshape the squad. And I mean, in every single way, we could be looking at a completely new United in 12 months' time.
Yeah.
Just whether other variables allow that to happen. In terms of
you make a good point, Cal, about the salary, because I was going to make the point, because undoubtedly James would bring up Pogba leaving in the summer, and I was going to say, look, we could. I think it was something ridiculous, wasn't it? About 125 million over the course of his contract. Imagine what we can do with 125 million quid. That's the key to it, isn't it? And what you've just pointed out there, Cal, about saving close on £1 million a week over the season, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money to be able to generate put back into the squad.
It's a huge point. It's a big point, that though, isn't it? Because a lot of people go, "Oh well," I'm trying to think.
So it's a lot more than 1 million as well.
It's probably more than that, to be honest. Yeah, you know. Right? But the thing is, people speak about free transfers. It's not really any such thing, because most of the time, in terms of free transfers, you've not had to pay the club any money. But all that does is the agent then goes, we've not had to pay a club any money. Give us a signing bonus or a loyalty fee or whatever. And you end up paying the player 10, 20 million instead most of the time.
Cal, again, you're right, Cal.
Also,
you're right.
The case.
Because look at what PSG are doing for Mbappe. They're offering him 180 million pounds or euros signing on fee. That's because to keep him out of the clauses of Real Madrid, and he'll become the second highest paid player in the world again, just on a signing on fee. It's ridiculous. But you're right.
I think effectively bringing it back to United with the likes of Mbappe. At this step, I mean, United would never ever in for Mbappe. I don't care what anyone says, because even we know we're going to get him. But at this point, I think there just needs to be a complete reset. Over the past 10 years, contracts have been handed out. Very big contracts have been handed out to players that simply didn't deserve them on big wages. They might have deserved another contract, but for Phil Jones is on £120,000 a week. Chris Smalling was offered £100,000 a week when he was still here. These players didn't need new contracts. And they were offered them on huge wages, which now means we can't then sell them on when another manager doesn't want them. There needs to be a structure. Personally, I wish in football we had some kind of performance base. So every team paid a percentage of whatever they make in that season. And then they pay the player that, and then they pay them performance-based wages. So you score a goal, you get an extra couple of grand or whatever. I don't know. I'm not an accountant. I couldn't work it out completely. But some kind of performance-based thing like that, it would surely entice the players to play.
Let's think about it this way. Like, take, for example, Marcus Rashford's case and the guy who should not be named. For example, take these two cases. Academy players, right, signed their first professional contract with United to be first-team squads, just around the 18 years old, both of them. And then we want to give them, again, a new contract, but a very high pumper deal in terms of how much they get paid. But if you put it in comparison to the biggest names in world football, it's just right up there. Now you're giving them this amount so early in their career, assuming these two, because they're academy boys, they're Manchester boys, they're staying in the club until the end of their footballing career. So they're probably waiting on another 2 contracts from United.
Yeah.
If Marcus Rashford or that guy were already at 21, 22 years old, earning 200,000 per week, and then he's getting another 2 upgrades, that would end him or end his last contract something close to 500,000 a week. So like, how can you give a 21-year-old 200,000 per week? Like the evaluation and the negotiation at United is just, it's completely ridiculous. It's completely like nonsensical.
I think there's two reasons for that, though, really. Coming to the United one, it's complete mismanagement of contracts from the higher-ups of Man United, and we know why that is, because there's no structure there at all. But I also think it's a broader football issue when it comes to that, because the money bubble in football is getting blown bigger and bigger. And until it bursts, it's going to get worse. The likes of PSG, Man City, these clubs that are owned by nation states, effectively, who can afford, PSG paid £200 million for Neymar. What that then did was,
well, after that point, everything got really messed up.
That was it, wasn't it? That was the one.
Yeah, I get your point, Callum, but that's it with regards to players you're buying from other clubs who are already established names. So, like, for example, Mbappe, right? He already established himself as a superstar on the biggest stage, as a Champions League player, blah, 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 all of that at a very young age, 21 years old, and he's doing all these things. Now, if United want to buy Mbappe, right? And Mbappe, let's say, he was on 150,000 at his original parent club, right? Now, if they want to buy Mbappe with all that's coming with him, the sponsorship and dealership and all that, and his performances and everything of it, they will have to put in a very big fee for him to sway him to come. But we're talking here about players who were already very, very on a very, very low wages, not performing, and they're most likely staying in this club anyway for the foreseeable future.
I think it's still relevant, though, in terms of money in football and the broader sense of it, because players' value was skyrocketed to the point where you're paying 30, 40, 50 million now for unproven 18, 19-year-olds. Everyone has turned around and effectively used that £200 million Neymar deal, who was obviously a global superstar. Yeah. But what they've all done is they've gone, well, if Neymar's worth that, we think our player's brilliant. We want to maximise. We want to. It's like West Ham for Declan Rice.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Bad player, really good player. But if you're turning around to me and telling me he's worth £120 million, then I have an email that I want you to respond to. Because it's you can't
it is right. That's true.
It's inflated every value of every player from the very bottom to the top. That's what I'm saying. It's relevant to all the levels, because as good as he's a proven Premier League player and all that, but £120 million for this player who effectively is a number 6, and probably does so well because of his partnership with Souček at West Ham.
Yeah.
If you were doing that and getting £120 million and bringing Souček, even then it still wouldn't be worth it, because Souček and Rice aren't worth that amount of money.
I still would say that, like, you could enforce it a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, for example, Liverpool right now with Mohamed Salah, as important as he is to them, they're not going to budge on the wages that they want to give him, and he's not willing to accept. He wants a bigger bumper deal, right? So, like, I'm talking about him because I'm Egyptian too, and he's Egyptian. So I like what Liverpool are doing, even though I want the best for the player as a similar nationality. But, like, I like what Liverpool is doing, and I wish United was doing that. Like, they stand their ground and say, we're not paying more than this because we don't think that you value more than that. If you think you can get better values outside, go. No matter how important you are to us, and there are so many deals around where you can get lower fees and lower wages. The Liverpool and Man City, not much, because they don't care about the money, but to a certain extent, are much better than United. But Liverpool are like, the way they're doing it, the way they're giving wages and picking out all the gems, it's amazing. It's actually amazing.
It is, yeah.
It's really fabulous. Because I actually think, as crazy as this is going to sound, and I hope you bear with me, I think Salah is replaceable at Liverpool. I do.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah, he is. He is
replaceable. He's a fantastic player. Good God, he's brilliant. But he's definitely replaceable, especially for the money that he's asking for. Liverpool are really shrewd at what they do in terms of signings. I mean, City are too. I think everyone is, just not United. But what Liverpool have done is basically gone, look, we're giving you a lot of money anyway. Sign that. If you don't want it, fine. We'll move you on and we'll look to the future in our team. Because that's how football moves on. You develop players, you look elsewhere, because you always want to be that turnover of players to keep your success as high as possible. You know, Salah's not too young. Is he 29, Abdel?
29. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's probably maybe got 3 years.
He's gonna turn 30 in June.
Yeah, so he's 30 for the next season. That is when you start to look at possibly going, right, we need someone who might be a little bit younger. To be fair, Jim,
After Callum, I want to comment on this comment after Callum finishes.
Yeah, I was just saying that. Yeah, I don't think it's Klopp and Pep per se. I think it's structure. That's it.
It is structure, yeah.
It has nothing to do with Pep and Klopp.
And because the styles of play that Klopp and Pep have, their structure and their scouting system and strategy that they have in place allows them to sign players that will maximise Klopp and Pep's style. And it's something that United simply don't do.
Go to Jim James. Go look at Liverpool and how they were building their club before Jurgen Klopp came in. Actually, before Brendan Rodgers came in. And then go look at how they built certain stuff at Brendan Rodgers' time, and then the fallout between Brendan Rodgers and FSG, Liverpool in general, because Brendan Rodgers wanted more power over signings, and they refused. They said, we want our club to play a certain style, and we think that these players fit that style. And Brendan Rodgers didn't like it, and this was the reason for the fallout. And then they brought in Klopp, and then they knew that Klopp fits the ideas that they want to play, right? Because it's all about pressing. By the way, like Liverpool have a very, very, very long history with pressing football, and that's why they went for these guys, the ones that emphasize pressing, and then they bought the players that fit Klopp's style. I think the perception is people think managers are scouts, and they know about all the players out there. They have no clue. Managers are like us. They'll sit there, watch the Champions League like us. I'm like, oh, this player looks really good. I might make a use of him in my team, But they actually don't really know if he fits their style very well or not, because they haven't watched him for very long. The people who do that job are the recruitment team, the analysts, the data scientists, the actual scouts that go watch these teams or these players day in and day out. Managers don't do that. Managers say, I want to play this style of football. I want to play a pressing football, and the club takes care of the rest of it. We don't do that. We have a very dysfunctional negotiation team, a very dysfunctional recruitment team, a very dysfunctional stuff like that. And the thing is, we allow the managers to bring in certain players, and then we go in and be like, no, we want our players too, midway. So it's kind of like a back and forth. It's never like either one way or the other. Like either go all in with the manager at least, or don't go all in with the manager and just get the players that you think fit the style that you want to play. We're in between. We really don't know what we want or what we want to do. So, but these clubs have a structure and a system and a way that they want to play. City knew exactly what level of football they wanted to reach before Pellegrini, not even before Pep, before Pellegrini.
Yeah,
and they were building. They were building to.
That was the point I was going to make. City were probably the better example more than Klopp, because they were signing players for Pep 4 years before Pep.
Pep came
out of his joint.
Yeah.
I think the thing is,
good old Tixie Bigesteria or whatever his name is.
Yeah, bringing it back to United though, I think I keep seeing a lot of pundits saying, why would he want the job? Well, as an ambitious manager, I think you'd all want to try and be the manager to turn Man United back to the top.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, he probably does want to put in some assurances that what's happened to previous managers, some big, huge name top managers, what's happened to them in the past at United it's almost ruined the reputation a little bit. And I think Ten Hag wants the assurances knowing that that's not going to happen to him, which is probably why he's put in some possible demands. I don't know how true it is, but possible demands about how much control he's going to have, or how much control he's not going to have in terms of what his people will want in terms of the football structure. The football structure that he's going to want is something that he'll want to help him to the best that it can do. And if that is in place, that allows him to sign the players that will make him elevate United further to the top, then he'll be okay with it. But I don't think Ten Hag would have ever gone near the job if he didn't own that.
I think he'll have assurances. He'll definitely have assurances that Ranić will have a much greater role than what's been reported. And I think Ranić has been the one that's been, instrumental in pushing for Ten Hag again, contrary to what's been reported. And I just hope that with Ten Hag, if he does come in, and they give Ranić the reins to build the club. Yes, we know it'll take 4 to 5 years to do it, but the way he wants to do it, i.e. a la Leipzig and things of that nature, and look what he did to Leipzig as an organisation. If he can get us anywhere close to that, as being well run as that, the rest will take care of itself on a footballing side in 3 years' time. So,
yeah, it's a bit of a pipe dream. It's impossible to think,
didn't he?
Yeah, I just enjoy sitting and listening. I'm not even a host; I'm a viewer. But it does seem a bit of a pipe dream for United to be run in any sort of efficient way. It's been that long since we have. I think even the back years of Fergie, we weren't even run right, were we? But,
no, we weren't.
Yeah,
the decay started since 2005.
Yeah, but a pipe dream at best. We do have to bring an end to a show there because obviously Stu has to get off and play better football than United do. So we'll leave it there.
Right.
I'm sure you'll be able to forgive me, but I apologise that there wasn't much talk about the actual United team that's going on right now because you can't tactically analyse a group of players that don't want to be there. It seems almost impossible. So we made the best of a bad bunch. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you did enjoy, be sure to like and subscribe. I do have to plug a show we've got going on tonight about the Glazer protest. That's live at 10. You see Carl and Stu's face.
I believe me and Stu are on it. Yeah,
we are. Yeah.
So stay tuned for that. I'll see you over the weekend. I'm filling in hosting duties, so stay tuned for that as well if you want to. It's not going to force you, but do what you want, I suppose. But yeah, like and subscribe. Stay tuned. If you no one wants to watch United Norwich, but if you do decide that you want some coverage post or pre-match, then stay tuned to this. But yeah, until then, we'll see you next time.